I used to think the worst thing a man could be at his own wedding was nervous. Turns out, the worst thing is irrelevant. The day I realized that, I was sitting at the head of the dining table in our apartment, going over final costs. My laptop was open. Receipts lined the screen like quiet warnings. Flights booked for Chloe's cousins, $1,200. The rooftop after-party venue. Deposits on the hotel blocks. Customized party favors, all under my name. Not once had I complained. I never asked Chloe to split the bill. I believed love meant covering things if you could, and I could. I run a logistics consulting firm that's done well for itself. I live lean, invest right, and keep things private. That was my mistake. Being quiet made them think I was insignificant. Chloe came in, twirling in a loose ivory robe, her phone in her hand, laughing about something one of her friends had sent her. She leaned in, kissed my cheek lightly, like she was tossing a coin in a wishing well, and then walked over to the fridge to grab a drink. "By the way," she said casually, "I added a few more names to the after-party list, just a few people from the past." I looked up slowly. What kind of people? She took a sip of her mango juice. "Don't be weird, just Chris and Kyle. It's been years. They're harmless." Chris, her ex-husband. Kyle, her ex-boyfriend, who once crashed her birthday party drunk and fought someone at the door. "You invited your ex-husband to our wedding party?" I asked, setting my laptop aside. "It's not a wedding party," she said. "It's just a celebration, casual vibes." The room went cold, but she didn't seem to notice. I didn't say anything right away. I just stared at her. She wasn't joking. There was no laugh waiting to spill out. Nothing. Just Chloe twirling her straw in her drink like she hadn't just flipped my stomach upside down. "You think that's appropriate?" I finally asked. "Oh, come on, Mark," she sighed, waving her hand. "Grow up. Chris is remarried, and Kyle, he's just there for drinks. Honestly, you're being really insecure right now." Insecure? That word landed like a slap. It didn't sting because it was true. It stung because it was lazy. The easiest way to flip a man's discomfort back onto him. Like I wasn't reacting to real disrespect, just making it all up in my head. I stood there, stunned, but before I could respond, her mother walked in. Diana Vance, queen of passive-aggressive compliments and backhanded advice. She strolled in with a shopping bag from Bloomingdale's and the kind of smug look that made you feel poor no matter your bank account. "You still whining about the guest list?" Diana said, barely glancing at me. "Please, it's a party. If you don't like it, we'll just give your spot to Jason." I blinked. "Jason?" She smirked. "Jason Lee, Chloe's childhood sweetheart, remember him? So charming. He's flying in." I stood frozen, but inside, something cracked. Not snapped, cracked. Like the first split in a windshield before it spiders out and ruins everything. That's when it hit me. I wasn't the groom. I was a placeholder, a set piece in their twisted little show. Chloe giggled, actually giggled, and leaned into her mother. "It's just jokes, babe. Relax." Relax. Another word like insecure, empty, sharp, dismissive, meant to silence. I didn't speak again. I just nodded slowly. Right, just jokes. That night, I stayed up late in the guest room. She thought I was upset and needed space. She didn't realize I was rearranging everything, because a man can only ignore so many things before he either explodes or evaporates. I chose the second. I replayed every little moment that had led up to this. The way she used to praise my discipline but mocked how I didn't like crowds. How Diana once asked me if my job was just typing all day. How they smirked when I told them we could afford a modest ceremony, then demanded a rooftop with imported orchids and champagne towers. I gave in, each time, quietly. I didn't want to be difficult. I wanted peace. Turns out, giving people peace who don't respect you just teaches them to treat you like silence. The next morning, Chloe hummed as she got dressed. She tried on a new white cocktail dress she planned to wear after the wedding. "What do you think, babe?" I stared at her in the mirror. She looked beautiful, objectively, but beauty without kindness is like a mansion with no warmth. Cold, hollow, impressive, yet unlivable. "It's nice," I said flatly. She barely noticed the tone. She was already texting someone. Her smile softened, eyes flickering. Then she caught me watching and locked the screen. I already knew the name. Chris. Maybe Kyle, too. That's when the quiet planning started. I didn't shout. I didn't throw accusations. I didn't beg. I just picked up my phone and opened a new note. The title, "The Cost of Being the Joke." And under that, I started listing. Not memories, not feelings, just numbers. Cold, hard, objective numbers. If they saw me as a prop, I'll show them what it costs to build a stage without one. The apartment was quiet, except for the occasional ding of a group call and the shrill laughter that followed. I was in the hallway, just outside the bedroom, standing still with my back to the wall. I wasn't eavesdropping by accident. I was listening because I needed to. Something inside me told me that if I kept pretending not to notice the disrespect, I would drown in it. And tonight, I didn't feel like drowning. The door wasn't even closed all the way. Chloe was propped up on the bed, legs crossed, face lit by the soft blue glow of her screen. On the video call were her three best friends, Kara, Jade, and Nia. The same three who had giggled during our engagement dinner when Diana accidentally called me Martin, her accountant. They were loud, cackling, sipping drinks, unaware or uncaring that I was home. Kara's voice was the first I caught clearly. "Wait, Chris is coming? You didn't tell me that part." "Yup," Chloe said, laughing. "And Kyle too. Why not? Let them all see me shine." "Oh my God," Nia squealed. "This is going to be a circus." Then Jade chimed in. Her voice was a razor. "And Mark? He's going to be standing there like a lost substitute teacher while the real lineup of men shows up." That stung, but what followed made my stomach turn. Chloe grinned. "He'll be fine. He's used to being in the background. Mark's quiet. You could replace him with a coat rack and nobody would notice." They howled, and I stood frozen. I felt my hands tighten at my sides, but I didn't move. I didn't burst in. I didn't throw my phone. I just stood there, breathing slowly, watching the shadows flicker under the door. Then Diana's voice popped up. I hadn't even realized she was on the call. "Honestly, Mark's not bad at all. He's just forgettable, like unsalted butter." More laughter. "I started calling him Mr. Invisible last week," she continued. "Chloe and I almost choked laughing." "That's messed up," Jade chuckled, "but true." Chloe didn't stop them. She didn't defend me. She laughed the loudest. And that's when I stopped being surprised. When the call ended, I walked back into the kitchen, calm on the outside. I sat down at the table, opened my notebook again, and wrote at the bottom of the page in small block letters, "They don't think I'm a man. They think I'm an accessory." She came out a little while later, wearing one of my shirts like it was a cute joke. She had that glow, the one she usually had after gossiping. I was sitting on the couch, scrolling through emails from clients, but my mind was miles away. She flopped next to me and nudged me with her knee. "You're awfully quiet." "I've got a lot on my mind," I said. She leaned in and kissed my cheek like a parent bribing a child to behave. "You're overthinking again. Everything's going to be perfect." Perfect. There was that word again. Perfect to her meant everything looked good, that it appeared polished, but it didn't mean it was right. It didn't mean it was real. I watched her walk away, humming, texting again, probably Chris, maybe Kyle, maybe both. I went into the guest room that night and opened a folder I hadn't touched in months. Inside were legal documents, my original prenuptial proposal, which she had scoffed at and talked me out of. I never pushed it. I didn't want to start our marriage with tension. But now I saw that the tension never left. It just wrapped itself in flowers and silk napkins. I started documenting everything. Every receipt, every name on the guest list, every comment that made me feel small. I screen-recorded the bank transactions tied to the wedding expenses. I took photos of the RSVP chart she left open on the computer, highlighting Chris and Kyle's names. I emailed them all to myself. Subject line, just in case. You see, I wasn't a man who yelled. I wasn't a man who stormed out or posted rants online. But I was a man who watched and remembered and prepared. The next day, Diana stopped by unannounced with swatches for centerpieces and a bottle of wine she probably expected me to pay for. I opened the door with a straight face. "Oh, good," she said, breezing past me. "You're home. I need to ask about the shuttle for Jason. His flight lands late." I stared. "Jason?" "Yes, sweetheart, Jason Lee. You remember, Chloe's little childhood flame. I'm flying him in. She deserves to have people who truly know her there." "She has me," I said flatly. She blinked. "Of course, darling. But, someone has to hold things together when the groom gets cold feet." She winked like it was a joke, but we both knew it wasn't. She didn't respect me. She barely tolerated me. In her mind, I was just the sponsor of her daughter's fairy tale. And once the check cleared, I'd be written out of the story like a forgotten prologue. That night, I started looking at flights. I typed in Santorini, our original honeymoon destination. I hovered over the Book Now button, but didn't press it yet. Not yet. I needed one more push, one more signal that everything I suspected was real. It came the next morning. Chloe asked me to help her zip up her new dress. It was sleek, white, and modern. She looked beautiful in it. But when I stood behind her and saw her holding her phone, my eyes caught the screen in the mirror. The message was open. "Kyle, you sure he won't flip? Please, Mark doesn't even notice. He's too busy being supportive." When she turned and smiled at me, I zipped the dress all the way up without a word. She thought I didn't see. She thought she was in control. She had no idea that the man she thought was invisible was about to become the one thing none of them could ignore. I sat at the kitchen table, same seat as always, but something in me had shifted. It wasn't rage. It wasn't heartbreak. It was something colder, sharper, a clarity that left no room for denial. I took a deep breath, opened my notebook, and flipped past the page where I'd started tracking wedding costs. This time, I wrote at the top, the list. Not just expenses, not just facts. Proof, timeline, pattern, plan. I started from the beginning. Venue deposit, $12,000. That one was wired from my account in early February. I remembered because Chloe insisted on the rooftop view overlooking the harbor. She said, "It has to be unforgettable." And I agreed. I just didn't know I'd be the one trying to forget it later. Then came the catering, $9,800. All vegan, gluten-free, organic fusion nonsense neither of us eats on a normal day, but she wanted to impress her mother's clients. Diana had made it clear the wedding was also a networking opportunity. I remembered nodding silently, writing the check, and dying a little inside as they argued over hors d'oeuvres that sounded like chemical formulas. The hotel block, $5,400. I paid for rooms for her aunts, uncles, and 2 cousins who hadn't seen her since high school. One of them, I found out later, was the one who had reintroduced her to Kyle. Flights for her cousins from Arizona, $2,600. Dresses for her bridesmaids that she said she'd cover, but somehow my card was used, $3,200. The flower deposit, $1,800. The DJ, $2,000. Even the party favors, custom champagne flutes engraved with Chloe and Mark forever, $1,150. Forever. That word burned. Page after page, I kept writing. When I totaled the numbers, it came out to a little over $46,000, not including the ring. And every receipt, every confirmation email, every charge came from my account. She hadn't even tried to contribute, not once. I looked at the final number and didn't feel proud or angry. I felt stupid, because it wasn't the money that bothered me. It was how easily they'd expected me to spend it, like that was my only value. Chloe floated into the room an hour later, holding up another dress. This one, not white, but emerald green with a long slit up the side. She did a twirl in the living room, hair pinned up like she was in some slow-motion movie. "Babe, what do you think?" she asked. "For what?" "For the after party," she smiled. "I want to look unforgettable, especially with Chris and Kyle coming. Don't you think it's kind of funny? All the men I've ever been with in one room?" Funny. That word again. I wanted to ask her if she really thought I was that naive. If she honestly believed a man would smile while she played musical chairs with her past flings like they were props in a reality show reunion. But I didn't say a thing. I just nodded. She took that nod as permission, as support. Then she leaned toward the mirror and began texting again. I didn't have to look over her shoulder. I already knew who it was. Chris, the ex-husband she said still respected her. Kyle, the ex-boyfriend who used to call her at 2 a.m. when we were first dating. Jason, the fantasy boy her mom brought back like a trophy. I watched her as she stared at her reflection, admiring her own glow. But I didn't see the woman I fell in love with. I saw a performer preparing for a role I didn't audition for. Her face was still beautiful, but it looked rehearsed, curated, empty of the real things: respect, honesty, care. I left the room without a word, went into the guest room, and turned on my laptop. I made copies of every receipt, saved all the screenshots I'd taken, messages, call logs, bank statements. I backed them up to an external drive I kept hidden. Then I opened a blank spreadsheet and began labeling each transaction. Each line told a piece of the story. Line 12, catering deposit paid 3/7, $4,000, Mark's card. Line 22, bridesmaid dresses paid 3/19, $3,200, Mark's card. Line 35, Chloe's second gown paid 4/2, $1,600, Mark's card. And beneath all of it, I wrote, no shared financial input, no signed prenup, no transparency. Later that evening, she asked me to come with her to the final venue walkthrough. She wore the same green dress. I said I had work. She pouted, but didn't push. That told me everything. She wasn't trying to include me. She was just keeping me close enough to fund the illusion and far enough to keep her performance unbothered. While she was out, I took one more step. I emailed all the vendors, venue manager, caterer, hotel, DJ, florist, and requested copies of the signed contracts. I told them I needed confirmation of my name being the only one listed. Every one of them replied within the hour. Every single contract was in my name alone. I stared at the emails like they were blueprints to a building I was about to demolish. And then I knew exactly how this would end. It wouldn't be loud, it wouldn't be violent. It would be silent, deliberate, and permanent. That night, as I sat with my notebook, Chloe returned from her walkthrough glowing. She tossed her shoes off and climbed into bed like everything was perfect. "You're going to love the lighting," she said. "It's like something out of a movie." I nodded. "Sounds magical." She rolled onto her side, texting again, her smile hidden in the dark. But I wasn't watching her anymore. I was staring at the ceiling, already writing the next move in my head. Because a man can only be humiliated so many times before he either breaks or disappears. And I had no plans of breaking. I sat in the dark with the soft glow of my laptop screen lighting my face. The clock on the wall ticked quietly behind me. 12:43 a.m. Outside, the city hummed like it always did. But in my apartment, everything was still, like the calm before something irreversible. This wasn't just another sleepless night. This was the night I made a decision I couldn't walk back from. The final straw had already landed. The list was complete. The receipts logged, the screenshots saved. My instincts were no longer whispering. They were screaming. And I wasn't about to be a willing extra in the twisted drama Chloe and Diana were directing. I opened the banking app and navigated to our shared credit account. It was the card we used for day-to-day things, groceries, dinners out, small purchases. But the wedding costs had all been charged to my personal accounts. That was on purpose. I'd been protecting my financial boundaries, but now I needed to protect them from her. I clicked on Manage Access, scrolled down, and removed both users, Chloe and, yes, Diana. She'd somehow talked Chloe into giving her access 6 months ago, saying it was just for emergencies. I should have cut her off then. I didn't. I was trying to be a good future husband. Now I understood. Being good to the wrong people only teaches them how to use you better. With a few taps, I locked the account, set alerts for any activity, and changed the password. Next, I opened another folder. This one contained a draft I hadn't looked at in over a year, a separation agreement. Back when Chloe and I had our first real fight, one of those long screaming matches about trust and money, I had drafted it with a lawyer, just in case. We'd moved on, or rather, I thought we had. I never deleted the file. I emailed Ben Carter, my lawyer and longtime friend. The subject line was simple: activate. I wrote, "Ben, I'm done pretending. I'm attaching everything you need. Please move forward with the emergency filing. I'll be unreachable for a while. I'll sign what you need before I go. You know where to send it." Then I attached every screenshot, every invoice, every message, every call log. The group chat with Chloe's friends laughing about me. The message from Kyle asking if I'd flip out. The receipt from the dress shop that charged my card behind my back. I hit send. And then I opened a travel tab and typed in the place I once dreamed of seeing with Chloe, Santorini. We were supposed to go there for our honeymoon. The plan was to take a catamaran tour, eat fresh seafood by the water, and wake up with sunlight pouring through white-curtained windows in a stone house overlooking the sea. But that future had been burned down quietly with every dismissive laugh and smug remark. I chose the departure date, the morning after the wedding after-party, one way, no return. I picked a window seat, paid in full, and downloaded the confirmation. Then I did something I'd been putting off. I opened the wedding contracts. One by one, I began canceling them. The venue was first. I called after hours, left a message, and followed up with an email. Effective immediately, I am canceling the booking for the event scheduled under my name. Please confirm cancellation and refund according to contract terms. The DJ, canceled. The hotel block, I contacted the manager directly. The florist, I told them to donate the flowers to a retirement home. I even canceled the private airport shuttle Diana had insisted on for her VIP guests. When Chloe texted me around 10 p.m. to say she might be home late, I responded, "Take your time. I'm handling a few things here." She sent a heart emoji. That was it. I leaned back in my chair and stared at that little red heart on the screen. It looked so hollow now, a digital sticker pasted over a foundation of lies. I got up and poured myself a glass of water. As I stood in the kitchen, I looked around the apartment. The framed photos, the wine rack, the stack of his and hers towels we bought 6 months ago. It all felt like a set, like I was living inside someone else's carefully curated dream. But I was done acting. There's something you learn when you spend years being the steady one, the quiet one. People mistake you for soft. They forget that silence is often the sign of someone listening, learning, planning. I didn't yell when Chloe humiliated me. I didn't argue when Diana joked about replacing me with Jason. I didn't fight when they turned my love into entertainment. But now they were going to find out what leaving quietly actually looks like. I took out a suitcase and started packing. Not for vacation, not to take a break, but to disappear. 2 shirts, 2 trousers, my passport, laptop, charger, documents, headphones, sunglasses. I left behind everything that wasn't essential, because I wasn't coming back. When Chloe returned around 1:15 a.m., I was already in bed, pretending to sleep. She kissed my forehead and whispered, "Big day tomorrow, babe," then climbed in beside me like everything was fine. She didn't know the hotel was already releasing the rooms. She didn't know the caterer had deleted the order. She didn't know her party had no music, no champagne, no lights. I lay still, breathing slowly, listening to her fall asleep. I imagined her reaction the next day. The confusion, the miscalls, the flickering panic in her voice when nothing showed up, in the empty seat where the groom should have been. Then I imagined myself boarding that plane to Santorini, earbuds in, wine in hand, and free. And I smiled, because people like Chloe and Diana only understand value once it's gone. And I was gone already. The day of the after-party arrived like a final curtain call on a show that never deserved an audience. I woke up early that morning, before the sun had even touched the window. Chloe was still asleep beside me, her face turned away, mouth slightly open, phone clutched loosely in her hand. Even in sleep, she didn't let it go. I sat up slowly, looked at her for a long moment, then stood. I didn't say goodbye. There was nothing to say. My bag was already packed. My flight was in 6 hours. The airport was 40 minutes away, but I wasn't rushing. I had time to disappear the right way. I took a final walk through the apartment, touching nothing. I didn't leave a note. No dramatics, no explanations. Let them figure it out on their own. That was the point. By 9 a.m., I was gone. Out the door, down the elevator, into the car I'd quietly pre-ordered the night before. As the city moved around me, I watched it pass like a man watching the final scenes of a movie he's already seen too many times. I wasn't nervous, I wasn't sad, I was calm. At the airport, I checked in, passed through security, and made my way to the lounge. I found a quiet corner, ordered a glass of red wine, and opened my laptop. I refreshed my inbox. Notifications had already begun trickling in. The venue manager sent confirmation of the cancellation along with a polite apology for the unexpected change of plans. The hotel followed up. The room blocks had been released. The DJ had texted, slightly confused but respectful, confirmed no longer needed, hope all is well. Everything was unraveling, quietly, efficiently, just as I planned. And Chloe still had no idea. My phone vibrated. 10:12 a.m. Chloe, hey babe, where'd you go this morning? Getting cold feet? LOL. Text me. I didn't reply. A few minutes later, the texts kept coming. 10:29 a.m. You're not answering. Are you okay? You went out without your wallet. 10:42 a.m. Diana, we're at the venue. The door's locked. Where is everyone? I sipped my wine and waited. 10:53 a.m. Jade, bridesmaid, the hotel says the party is canceled. What's going on? 11:10 a.m. Chloe, Mark, are you serious right now? This isn't funny. My hair is done. I'm in makeup. The girls are freaking out. Call me. Then the calls came in. I declined them. Another one, then another. 12:04 p.m. Diana, you child, you're ruining Chloe's moment. You think this is cute? I smiled. At 12:30, Naya texted me. Naya, I'm here. This is insane. People are yelling. Chris already left. Kyle is sitting on the curb looking stupid. Diana is screaming at hotel staff. Someone's crying in the bathroom. This is better than Netflix. I laughed, quiet and steady, the sound muffled by the clink of my wine glass on the table. Naya again. Your seat has Jason's name on it, I swear. They brought in a guy to literally replace you at your own party. He looked confused as hell when he saw the empty room. I could see it in my head. Diana snapping her fingers at staff. Chloe pacing in heels too high to walk in. Jason, the poor childhood crush, probably realizing he'd walked into a war zone disguised as a celebration. The music that never came. The champagne that never arrived. The beautiful rooftop that no one had access to. Every piece of it funded by me and now reclaimed by me. 1:15 p.m. Chloe, why are people getting refund notifications? Mark, what did you do? 1:22 p.m. Chloe, people are leaving. My cousin's flight is canceled. You canceled the block. I can't believe this. Answer your phone. 1:45 p.m. Diana, you little coward. I knew you weren't man enough to handle Chloe. This is what you wanted? Embarrass us? You'll regret this. Mark my words. I put my phone down, finally tired of the buzzing. Let them talk. Let them scream. The real twist was, they weren't mad I left. They were mad I left before they finished using me. I pulled up Naya's messages again. Me. Thank you for keeping me updated. Naya. Of course. I told Chloe not to play with you. She didn't listen. She treated you like a sponsor, not a partner. Me. She thought I'd stay silent. She forgot I was the one holding the power the entire time. Naya. The best part? Chloe said earlier in the group chat, "This party is going to be legendary. All the men who ever loved me will see me shine." She attached a screenshot. I saved it immediately. That line would be useful for Ben's legal strategy. Let them keep talking. Every word they sent became another piece of my defense. By 2 p.m., I boarded the plane, first class, seat 1A. I sat down, closed my eyes, and leaned back as the engine started its soft growl beneath the cabin floor. The world outside that plane could have burned, and I wouldn't have cared. I had no ties anymore, no responsibilities to people who thought I was invisible. For the first time in months, I didn't feel tired. I didn't feel like I was holding anything in. I wasn't waiting to be seen. I wasn't hoping to be chosen. I had chosen myself. Somewhere over the Atlantic, I took out my journal and wrote, "They planned a performance. I canceled the theater. Now they're standing on a stage with no lights, no audience, no script." And I smiled again, because this wasn't revenge. It was release. Somewhere over the Atlantic, I finally slept. Deep, dreamless, uninterrupted sleep. When I woke up, the flight attendant gently tapped my shoulder and asked if I wanted breakfast. I declined. I wasn't hungry. Not for food, anyway. I was hungry for quiet, for distance, for the kind of space that lets you breathe without someone else's ego taking up all the air. As the plane descended into the Aegean right, my phone came alive again. 37 missed calls, all from Chloe. 12 more from Diana. A handful from numbers I didn't recognize. Probably Kara or Nia, or maybe even Jason, wondering why he flew across the country just to be a decoy at a failed wedding after-party. I ignored every single one. But Naya's name lit up with a text just before touchdown. Naya. It's a bloodbath. Diana's calling everyone traitors. Chris went ghost. Kyle posted something about being too real for fake parties. Jason took a cab back to the airport and left without speaking. I've never seen a mess like this in my life. But they still haven't said your name out loud. It's like they're trying to pretend you never existed. I stared at that message longer than I thought I would. There was something poetic about it. After all the times they laughed behind my back, after the endless jokes about being forgettable, now they were treating me like a ghost. They thought erasing me would save face, but it only exposed them. I landed in Santorini at 3:07 p.m. local time. The heat welcomed me like an old friend. The ocean in the distance sparkled like it had something to say, and I was finally ready to listen. A driver stood at arrivals with my name on his sign. "Mr. Turner," he said, smiling warmly, "welcome." I hadn't heard my own name spoken with respect in weeks. The hotel was perched high above the cliffs, whitewashed walls glowing under the sun, terraces shaded by canvas sails that fluttered in the wind. My suite overlooked the caldera, the volcano sleeping in the sea. I stepped out onto the balcony, exhaled, and for the first time in a long time, felt the weight slide off my chest. While I unpacked, my phone buzzed again. Chloe. "Please talk to me, please." Another message. Chloe. "I don't even care about the party. I just want to understand why you would humiliate me like this." I didn't reply. She wasn't sorry for how she treated me. She was sorry she got caught. Then came the email from Diana. Subject line, "You owe us an explanation." I didn't open it. I forwarded it straight to Ben. A few minutes later, my lawyer called. His tone was calm, but I could hear the amusement under his voice. "Just got the email," Ben said. "And by the way, the screenshots you sent, that group chat and the messages from Kyle, those are gold. Emotional manipulation, financial abuse, and evidence of public humiliation. This isn't just a separation anymore. This is a fortified wall. Good, I said. Let's finish it. We'll file the full divorce petition by Monday. They don't have a leg to stand on. Everything was in your name, including the canceled contracts. And as for damages, they can bark all they want, but unless they can prove breach, they get nothing. You built the party. You had every right to tear it down. What about the ring? I asked. Ben chuckled. Rented? Returned. Receipts logged. You're a very thorough man, Mark. I smiled faintly. I learned from the best. He paused. You okay out there? I will be, I said. Just not coming back the same. We hung up. I turned off my phone, slid it into the drawer beside the bed, and left it there. No more buzzing, no more noise. Just the breeze and the sound of the waves below. I spent the next few days rediscovering myself. I woke up without pressure. I walked the cobbled streets without needing to explain where I was going. I hiked alone, stopping to sit in places where the world seemed too beautiful to speak. I ate fresh fish with lemon and olives. I drank local wine. I watched sunsets without photographing them. I wrote in my journal. Not about pain, not about them, but about peace. That's what happens when you finally put yourself first. You stop needing revenge. You stop waiting for apologies. You stop trying to prove your worth to people who couldn't see it if you spelled it out on a neon sign. Somewhere between the third and fourth day, Naya messaged me again. She wasn't pestering. She just checked in, like a real friend. Naya. They're scrambling. Chloe posted a long story claiming you ghosted her without warning. Playing victim hard, but the screenshots are leaking. Kara's cousin posted the group chat. People are seeing the truth. I didn't ask her to keep reporting. She just did. She had seen what I endured. She'd been a silent witness to the slow erasure of my dignity. And now she was the mirror, reminding them all, I wasn't invisible. I just stopped performing. The next morning, I went back to that balcony with a cappuccino in hand, the sun rising over the cliff's edge. I opened my journal again and scribbled just one sentence. I was never the problem. I was the reset button they never expected me to press. It was quiet after that, even from Chloe. No more calls, no more messages. Silence, but not peace. Not for them. Because people like Chloe don't find peace when the attention fades. They find panic. And Diana, she only knew power when she could control someone else's stage. Without me, there was no production, no lights, no audience, just her voice echoing in a room that no one entered anymore. By the end of that week, I booked another ticket. Not home. Lisbon. I needed a place to start over completely. Somewhere that didn't know my name, didn't expect anything, didn't carry echoes. Santorini had been the escape. Lisbon would be the beginning. And as I zipped my bag, I realized something. I didn't feel guilty, not even a little. Because I wasn't running away. I was walking out of a fire I didn't start, but had every right to put out. It took exactly 2 weeks after I landed in Lisbon for the legal fireworks to begin. Ben moved with surgical precision. Everything I had sent him, documents, messages, screenshots, receipts, was arranged into a bulletproof petition. He didn't just file for divorce. He filed a declaration of intentional emotional fraud, attached with evidence of financial exploitation. It wasn't about punishing Chloe. It was about making the truth official, on paper, in the court's hands, so that no one, not even Diana with her high-powered sneer, could twist the narrative. The paperwork hit them like a thunderclap. I got the update from Ben via email. Subject, it's done. Inside, his message was simple. Filed and served. No prenup to protect her. All wedding costs, bookings, and services were yours alone. Her name's on nothing. Their only defense is narrative, not law. Oh, and Diana threatened to sue for event damage. She claims you caused reputational harm by canceling the party last minute. I had the pleasure of forwarding her the contracts, every single one under your name. No co-signatures. No shared liability. Also, the ring. We confirmed return. No legal tie. You're clean, Mark. Let her run her mouth. The paper trail speaks louder. I sat in a cafe just off the Praça do Comércio, my espresso cooling between my fingers, reading that email 3 times before closing my laptop. I didn't smile. I didn't laugh. I just felt clear. Everything I had quietly built to protect myself had worked. Because that's what men like me do. We plan while they play. 2 days later, Nia called me. I rarely picked up calls anymore, but I always made time for her. "Mark, you're trending." "What?" "Your story," she said. "Someone leaked the full thing. The group chat screenshots, the guest list, that line Chloe sent about all the men who ever loved her watching her shine. It's everywhere." "How did it leak?" "Kara's cousin," Nia said. "He posted it after Diana tried to throw him under the bus on Facebook. He got petty and dropped receipts. It blew up from there." "Unreal." "It gets better," she added. "Chloe is trying to do damage control, but it's backfiring. She went live last night crying about being abandoned. But someone played a voice memo of Diana laughing about replacing you with Jason." I leaned back in my chair, phone pressed loosely to my ear. "They're eating each other alive now," she said, "like wolves." That was when I realized I didn't need to do anything else. They were destroying themselves with the very tools they used to mock me. The fake stories, the secret chats, the ego-driven performances, it all crumbled under the weight of its own vanity. I was just the quiet man who had built the stage, and I had simply walked off. Back in the States, Ben had everything locked down. My assets were untouchable. I'd separated them long ago, keeping business finances distinct from personal. I never added Chloe's name to anything. No joint property, no marital accounts. Even the apartment we lived in was leased in my name alone. They had nothing left to grab. Diana, in desperation, tried contacting vendors and pressuring them to release statements that made me look unstable, but the venue manager refused. He'd already spoken to Ben and signed a non-disclosure. The florist even posted a story defending me. Some of y'all need to stop playing with people's kindness. Our client was respectful and direct. That's all I'll say. It spread like wildfire. Then came the email from a local news site. Subject: seeking comment on the vanishing groom. I didn't reply. I wasn't interested in making this bigger. The only headlines I cared about were the ones I wrote in my own life. Ben sent one final update that week. Chloe has signed the no contest divorce petition, likely advised by her lawyer to avoid court exposure. I'll send the final papers for signature. One thing: Diana's business, Vance Image Consulting, has lost 5 corporate clients. Apparently, one of them saw the leaked messages and decided to reassess values. Thought you'd want to know. I sat with that for a moment, not because I was celebrating someone else's ruin, but because it finally hit me how fragile their empire had been. It didn't take violence, it didn't take shouting, it took the truth. And the truth always breaks louder than revenge ever could. I signed the divorce papers while sitting in a quiet Lisbon bookstore cafe. I didn't hesitate. I didn't reread them. I clicked the signature box and hit send. Then I closed the laptop, sipped my espresso, and looked out the window at the passing trams and cobbled streets. The air smelled like sea salt and citrus. I wasn't angry anymore, not even a little. I was free. A few days later, I got a message from an old mutual friend, Marcus. She's trying to get people to sign a character letter for her. Nobody's biting. Too many screenshots. Too much truth. Me, let her try. I'm not watching. Because that's the part they never expected. They thought I'd be obsessed, bitter, watching from the sidelines, waiting for updates, craving closure. But I wasn't. I didn't need closure from people who never truly opened their hearts in the first place. I found something better. Peace. And I guarded it like gold. In Lisbon, I kept working. I ran my business remotely, consulted on a few global supply chain projects, took long walks in the Alfama district, ate pastéis de nata fresh out of the oven, and finally stopped feeling like I owed anyone an explanation for how I chose to live. One evening, I found myself on a rooftop, watching the city glow under a pink sky. Music floated up from a street musician below. I wasn't dressed fancy. I wasn't with anyone. I didn't have a drink in hand. I was just there. And for the first time, that was enough. That's the beauty of walking away the right way. Not with a bang, not with cruelty, but with control. You get to build a life that's no longer shaped by the hands of people who once tried to erase you. I knew it wouldn't take long before Chloe tried to reclaim the story. It started with a carefully filtered black and white photo of her sitting by a window in a wedding dress, one leg crossed. She turned off the comments. For 2 days, that post sat untouched, gathering sympathy from the handful of people who hadn't seen the leaks. Diana jumped into the game too, resharing the post on her consulting page with her own comment. "Some men will never be strong enough to handle a powerful woman. My daughter deserved better." That would have stung once. Now I just shook my head. Because the internet had already done what the courts couldn't. It remembered everything. On day 3, someone, Nia said it was probably Jade's ex, leaked a full screenshot album to a viral gossip page. It included the group chat where they joked about replacing me with Jason, the texts between Chloe and Kyle, and, most damning of all, the audio clip of Diana saying, "Even a scarecrow would have made a better groom. At least it wouldn't ask questions." I wasn't tagged in any of it. I didn't comment, I didn't repost, but I saw it. And I saw the shift. The sympathy on her post turned to confusion, then anger. People started stitching the screenshots into reaction videos. One creator read her caption aloud, then posted a split screen of the leaked messages, ending with a sarcastic, "Yeah, she was the victim, all right." Others dug deeper. Someone found the florist story praising my professionalism. A wedding guest posted a now viral thread detailing the chaos of the party and how Chloe kept smiling like it was a pageant, even after the staff didn't show up. By the end of the week, the tide had turned. She tried to delete the post. Too late. The screenshots lived on. I wasn't watching because I cared what happened to her. I was watching because I had been invisible for so long that seeing truth take the spotlight felt like a quiet vindication. And then Naya messaged me. "Naya, you're not going to believe this. Diana's consulting firm just lost their biggest client, me. Because of the wedding stuff?" Naya, "Yup. Someone sent the screenshots to the CEO. They pulled their contract, released a statement about integrity and values, and now she's in full meltdown mode. She tried to do damage control on LinkedIn. It backfired hard." I didn't reply right away because I didn't need to. This wasn't about revenge anymore. This was just the truth, echoing louder than any lie ever could. A week later, a wedding planning company that had featured Chloe in their Bride Spotlight series posted a quiet update. They removed her feature. No explanation, no shade. Just gone. Even Jason, the childhood crush turned awkward stand-in, posted something vague but pointed. Some people love the spotlight so much they forget they aren't the star. I bookmarked it, not to share, but to remind myself. Even those closest to her saw the mask fall. Meanwhile, back in Lisbon, I was moving on. I stopped checking my phone for updates. I started hiking more, journaling less. I met new people. A photographer named Elena from Porto offered to show me hidden spots in the city. She didn't ask questions about my past. She didn't pry. She just offered conversation and calm. And for once, I didn't feel like I had to earn someone's presence. We had coffee, then dinner, then a walk along the waterfront that lasted 3 hours. She wasn't Chloe. She wasn't anyone I'd ever met. And that was the point. She didn't try to shine over me. She didn't make me feel invisible. She saw me. One night, over glasses of Vinho Verde on a rooftop, she asked me why I came to Lisbon. I thought about lying, giving her some clean version of the truth, but instead, I said, I was part of something that looked beautiful on the outside, but was rotting underneath. I walked away before it poisoned me, too. She nodded slowly. You're not the first man to escape, just one of the few who didn't wait until it was too late. I looked at her and felt something settle in my chest. Maybe not love, but something real. That night, as I lay in bed, I opened my old wedding email folder for the first time in weeks. I went through the photos of Chloe's original mood boards, the mock-up invitations, the list of guests. I deleted them all, one by one, not in anger, but in closure. The final one was the RSVP sheet. I saw the name Jason Lee under VIP, marked with a gold star. I deleted it last. Then I opened my journal and wrote, They built their identity around my silence. The moment I spoke with action, the illusion fell. Now they're scrambling in a reality they created. I didn't ruin their story. I just stopped being a prop in it. The next morning, I woke up to another message from Nia. Nia. She sent out a mass email apologizing to people she may have disappointed. No names, no specifics, just empty words. Looks like even she's starting to accept the fallout. Me. Let her. That's her journey now. Nia. You really don't want to respond at all? No, I already did, when I left. That was the last time we talked about it, because there was nothing else to say. Chloe's show had collapsed, not because of anything I shouted or posted, but because I refused to stand on a stage that mocked me. And when you take away the spotlight, the actors have nothing left to perform in. The first time I saw the sunrise over the Tagus River, I didn't think about what I'd left behind. I thought about what I had finally made room for. Lisbon was never part of the original plan. In fact, there wasn't a plan at all after Santorini. Just a moment where I looked out over white rooftops and decided I didn't want to return to the version of myself who accepted being treated like a second option. I wanted to live somewhere that didn't know my name, that didn't recognize my silence as weakness. And for the first time in years, I wanted to live without anyone else's story framing mine. So I rented a small apartment near Bairro Alto. 2 rooms, 1 sun-drenched balcony, and just enough space for solitude. I set up my home office in the corner by the window. My clients didn't care where I worked, as long as the work was done. And in that freedom, I found something I never had back home, the right to exist on my own terms. Days settled into new rhythms. Morning jogs along the waterfront, afternoon espresso in tucked-away cafes, evenings spent walking through old neighborhoods where the tiles on the buildings told stories older than Diana's fake legacy and Chloe's curated persona. It was simple, and it was mine. I stopped checking social media, stopped tracking the fallout. Naya kept me updated for a while, but even she eventually wrote, I think you've outgrown this drama, Mark. Let it rot where it fell. And she was right. I wasn't curious anymore. I wasn't angry or vindicated or anything at all. I was simply done. A month after I settled in Lisbon, Elena invited me to her gallery opening. She was soft-spoken but direct, the kind of woman who looked you in the eyes when she asked questions. She didn't know much about my past, just that I'd gone through something that taught me how to rebuild. That night, the gallery buzzed with quiet laughter and the clink of wine glasses. Her photographs lined the walls. Candid shots of Lisbon. Strangers caught mid-motion. Street musicians under soft light. Children running through puddles. This one reminds me of you, she said, pointing to a photo of a man walking down a narrow street, half in shadow, half in sunlight. Why? I asked. Because he's walking alone, she said, but not lost. He's choosing it. And for a long moment, I just stared at the photo. She didn't know what those words meant to me, but they hit harder than any apology Chloe could have written. 2 days later, I signed the final divorce papers over breakfast. Ben emailed the last version, and I printed them at a corner shop, signed them by hand, and mailed them back with no emotion attached. It was just a formality now, a punctuation mark on a chapter that no longer needed my energy. I didn't cry, I didn't drink, I didn't call anyone. Instead, I walked to a quiet overlook and watched the boats pass slowly beneath me. I opened my journal, the same one I'd been writing in since the beginning of it all, and I wrote, "I didn't run from the pain. I just stopped inviting it in." That same day, I received a small box in the mail. No return address. Inside was a single Polaroid of me and Chloe from 2 years ago, taken on a trip to Napa. We looked happy in it, laughing, her head thrown back, my arm around her waist. Underneath it was a note, no signature. "He used to make me laugh without even trying. I just forgot how rare that was." I didn't need a handwriting expert to know it was her. I closed the box and set it aside. Not because I was tempted, but because I had nothing to give that memory anymore. It had been drained of life, like a photograph left too long in the sun. You can look at it, but you can't step back into it. That night, Elena and I sat on my balcony with a bottle of wine. She told me stories about her father, about growing up in Porto, about learning to take photos with an old camera that barely focused. "You ever going back?" she asked me softly. "Back where?" "To wherever this all began." I thought about it, about the apartment I left without a word, about the wedding after-party I never showed up to, about the people who didn't notice I was gone until they had no one left to laugh at. "No," I said simply. "Everything I needed to know, I learned by walking away, even the hard stuff, especially the hard stuff." And that was the truth. Lisbon didn't fix me. It didn't erase what happened, but it gave me something I didn't know I was missing: space to be myself without shrinking. Eventually, I started letting new people in. Not fast, not carelessly, but carefully. People who didn't try to shape me, who didn't see me as a utility. Friends, collaborators, a few clients I met in person who asked about my journey. And instead of rehearsing pain, I told them the truth. Sometimes walking away is the bravest thing you can do. I even started volunteering at a local mentorship program, helping young entrepreneurs build logistics for their growing businesses. One of the students asked me once, "Why are you here? You could be making way more in New York or London." I smiled and said, "Because here, I'm not a product, I'm a person." That answer stayed with me long after the session ended. It was the first time I'd said it aloud and meant it. A few weeks later, Alina brought me a small gift, a leather-bound notebook. "For your next chapter," she said. I opened it, flipped to the first page and wrote, "This story no longer begins with betrayal. It begins with choosing myself." It was a rainy afternoon in Lisbon when the final message came. I was sitting near the window of my favorite cafe, the one tucked beneath a row of ivy-covered buildings, sipping tea and listening to the distant hum of passing trams. The city had slowed down, like it always did when the clouds rolled in. I had grown to love these quiet moments. The sound of rain against the glass, the smell of fresh pastry, the feeling of not needing to be anywhere but where I was. My phone buzzed gently on the table. A notification from Ben. The subject line, FWD, final letter, Chloe Vance. I hesitated. I hadn't thought about her in days, weeks even. Not in the way I used to. The pain had passed, so had the anger. What was left was something else. Detachment. Like remembering a movie you once loved until you saw how it ended. Still, I opened it. It was a scanned letter, handwritten in blue ink on lined paper, the kind you'd find in a college notebook. No dramatic flourishes, no perfume, no stickers. Just a raw, plain note from a woman whose voice I used to know by heart. Mark. I don't know where you are now. Maybe you've blocked me from everything. Maybe you'll never even read this. That's fine. I'm not writing to ask for anything. I'm writing because I finally saw what I refused to see when it mattered. You were good to me. You loved me in quiet ways I never respected. I used to think love had to be loud, messy, complicated. But you were the opposite of that. You were steady. You were safe. And I mistook that for weakness. I treated you like a placeholder, like someone who should just be grateful to be in the picture. I let my mother run her mouth. I let my friends mock you, and I laughed when I should have defended you. I see that now. I wanted to shine, but at what cost? I burned everything down just to be the center of attention. And when you walked away, I finally realized something terrifying. Without you, I had no story. I was just noise. So this is not a plea. This is not a trap. It's just a confession. You were right. I didn't respect you, and I paid the price. I hope you're somewhere peaceful. I hope someone is treating you like you're the story, not the background. I hope when you wake up, you feel free. Goodbye, Mark. Chloe. I read it once. Then again. I waited for something. Anger, sadness, vindication. But all I felt was a quiet finality. She didn't beg, she didn't blame, and for once, she didn't pretend. It was the first honest thing I had received from her in over a year. I folded the digital skin into my thoughts and closed the email. I didn't respond. There was nothing left to say. I walked home in the rain, not rushing, not thinking about the past. I got back to my apartment, dried off, and pulled out my journal, the one Elena gave me, the one that only held stories written after I became myself again. I slid the printed copy of the letter into the back pocket. Then I opened to a fresh page and wrote, I bought the party. They planned the joke. I walked away. And now they're the punchline. I looked out the window at the gray skies above the city and smiled, not because I won, but because I ended it my way. That night, Elena came by. She brought fresh bread, local cheese, and a bottle of wine. We ate on the floor, laughing over nothing, a movie playing in the background we barely watched. She told me about a gallery in Spain that wanted her work. I told her I might travel again soon. Maybe Italy, maybe Morocco. We talked like people who had no need to impress each other, only to be seen. After dinner, we sat on the balcony in silence, wrapped in one blanket, her head on my shoulder. I got a letter today, I said quietly. She didn't ask who it was from. Instead, she looked at me and asked, "Do you feel lighter?" I thought about it. Not just the letter, but everything that came before it. The betrayal, the humiliation, the decision to leave, the silence, the rebuilding, the quiet victories. "Yes," I said, "I do." She nodded once, rested her hand on mine, and said, "Good. That means it's over." And she was right. Not because the letter closed the story, but because I no longer needed one. I wasn't Mark, the man who got left out of his own wedding celebration. I wasn't the groom replaced by a lineup of old lovers. I wasn't the silent wallet in the corner, or the joke of the group chat, or the man mocked by his own wife's mother. I was Mark Turner, the man who chose himself when no one else did. The man who saw the fire, walked through it, and kept walking until he reached the sun. And wherever my story went next, it would begin with one truth. I am not the man they tried to erase. I am the man they'll never forget.